So in example 4, tell whether the function is linear, then evaluate the function when x is negative 3. Well, linear, we see the word line as part of that. Our linear functions make a line, and there's no piece about them where you've got anything other than y equals mx plus b. So if you can write it y equals mx to the first plus a constant, then you have a linear function. But if you have an exponent greater than 1 on your variable, it is not linear. So example 4a, because of that exponent of 3 on your variable x, this is non-linear, or it is not a linear function. But we can still evaluate our function when x is negative 3, that's fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our function f, and we are evaluating it at negative 3. So we'll say f of negative 3 is 2x, except instead of x we have negative 3, cubed plus 5. So negative 2, negative 3 cubed. Well, negative 3 times negative 3 is a positive 9, times negative 3 is a negative 27, plus 5. Negative 2 times negative 27 is a positive 54. 54 plus 5 is 59. So f of negative 3 is 59. Then we've got g of x. We want to say whether it is linear or not. Well, we've just got x to the first power, and we don't have anything else funky going on, so this one is a linear function. And we want to evaluate it when x is negative 3, so we are going to find g of negative 3. So we have 12 minus a sixth of negative 3. Well, 1/6 of negative 3, we can turn that into a fraction. So negative 3 over 1. We can cross cancel. We've got a 2 here and a negative 1 there. So then we've got 12 minus negative 1 over 2. So we are taking 12 plus a half, which we can just call 12 and a half. G of negative 3 is 12 and a half, or 12.5, or 25 over 2. Lastly, we are graphing this linear function by plotting points. Now, when we plot points, make your life as easy as possible and pick nice points by plotting nice points. What I mean by that is, if you have a fraction in front of your x, so your m, your slope, is a fraction. If you pick numbers for x, pick values for x that are multiples of that denominator, so for us, 3, then your life is going to be a lot easier. You're going to have all whole numbers to pick. Now, if you don't, that's totally fine. You're just going to be mired down with fractions, and that's fine. But if you pick values for x that are multiples of 3, then your life is going to be a lot easier. Now, my other rule, and this one is a necessity, not like a you should do this, but you have to pick positive and negative x values. So pick positive and negative x coordinates. Please, 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 please. So if we want multiples of 3, then we can go negative 6, negative 3, 0, 3, and positive 6. Now, when we plot those points, we plug them in. So we can evaluate m of negative 6. Oops. And that's going to be 1/3 of negative 6 plus 1. Well, 1/3 of 6 would be 2. So 1/3 of negative 6 is going to be negative 2. Plus 1 is going to be negative 1. And then m of negative 3 is going to be 1/3 times negative 3 plus 1. Well, 1/3 of 3 is 1, so 1/3 of negative 3 is negative 1, plus 1 is 0. Next, we're going to evaluate our function m at x equals 0. So we're going to take a third of 0 and we're going to add 1 to it. Well, a third of 0 is 0. 0 plus 1 is 1. Notice we don't have any fractions that we're dealing with because all of our x coordinates were multiples of 3. So now we're going to evaluate m of 3. So we're taking a third of 3, which is 1, plus 1, and we get 2. And lastly, we want m of 6, which is going to be a third of 6 plus 1. Well, 1/3 of 6 would be 2, plus 1 is 3. Now we've got all of these ordered pairs, and notice we were asked to graph the entire function. So these are just some x coordinates we could have chosen. These were the ones that I chose. You could choose different ones. As long as you pick positive and negative x coordinates, you're fine. And then together, after we've plotted those points, we are going to connect our points with a line. So at the end of the day, we want to graph a line. And today we're just doing it by plotting points. In the future, we're going to learn some faster tricks, but for now, we're just plotting points. So we've got -6, -1, so we're moving left 6 and down 1. Then we've got -3, 0, so left 3, up and down 0. And we've got the pair 0, 1, left or right 0, up 1. And the point 3, 2, so we're moving right 3 and up 2. And lastly, we've got 6, 3, so we need to move to the right 6 and up 3. Now, once we've plotted those points, that doesn't mean that we are done. Oh, wait, hold on, I can't count. That's a problem. Too far. Right, 6 up 3. There we go. So once we've plotted all those points, we're still not quite done. We have to connect our points with a line, and we are going to do it. Let's see if I can figure this out, okay? Oh gosh, that's not what I wanted to do. So we are going to draw a line. Okay. Now, my rule for drawing your lines, and I guess it's 2 rules. Number 1, you have to draw your line from edge to edge. So maybe the points you plotted just ended up being like here, here. Oh, what happened to that line? Whatever, who cares? Maybe your points were like here, 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 here. I don't want to just see your line look like that. You need to go all the way from edge to edge. So rule number 1, your line needs to go from edge to edge. And then rule number 2, it needs to have arrows because our graph doesn't stop at our end of our picture, right? Our graph goes on, okay, I give up with this line. Our graph goes on forever and ever and ever. And so we need to indicate that by arrows. So our graph goes on forever and ever. Use a ruler so that your line, looks better than mine. But so number 1, draw your line from edge to edge. And number 2, it needs to have arrows. So today we have talked about relations and specifically linear functions. One more thing before you are done with your notes for today. On Google Classroom, you will find this ways to represent relations. I'm calling it an infographic. You need to complete that and find the domain and range and whether or not it is a function for each of these. Complete it first, check my answer key on Google Classroom, and then when you're finished, you can get started on your homework.